And good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. This is Francis Wade from Framework Consulting. And today I'm leading a short webinar on behalf of HRMAJ. That's the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica. This week happens to be HR Week, which I'm sure you're all aware of, right? But you should be, because human resource professionals play such an important part in everything that happens in corporate Jamaica. And today my presentation is called, let me just get the title just right, the top 3 reasons HR professionals are asked to improve employee productivity. And HR Week, by the way, goes from the 8th to the 14th. So I believe that means it ends tomorrow. So it's not too late to go to the Facebook page for HRMAJ and visit. I'll actually put it just in the show notes just below, along with some other resources, but you should go and check out the page. Tell everyone over there hi, tell Susan and the other staff members, and get in touch with them on the work that they're doing. So once again, today's topic has to do with the top 3 reasons HR professionals aren't asked by CEOs to improve corporate productivity. And today I'm inspired by recent news. Came out yesterday that the JUTC, which is the bus company in Jamaica, actually has 500 extra staff members. That's 500 people who the CEO says are actually not being used and aren't necessary, which, as you can imagine, is a problem. So if there were a solution to the overstaffing, it probably would lie in productivity, because at the moment, all they're thinking of doing is how do we deploy these people to somewhere else. But if there were a better solution, it would be, how can I make these 500 people more productive? And it echoes a problem I hear from many CEOs across the region. Simply put, how can I have my people more productive? How can I cut absenteeism? How can I cut lateism? How can I make sure they don't take all these sick days? How can I make sure that they do their work, they actually show up at work? And a lot of them harbor this sort of feeling that, if I had the same number of people and they were different people, I probably only need half as many people. So I could actually cut my staff by 25%, 50%. Those are the kind of numbers I hear, if only they were more productive. No, the problem is that they don't know how to improve productivity. They don't have an expert to go to. They try carrots and sticks. They try to do their best using incentivizing, which is a whole lot of external motivation. They try to use the performance management system to offer incentives, and they give people warnings and try a lot of coaching that has to do with giving them tangible rewards. And as you probably know, extrinsic motivation doesn't work in the long term. It is a short-term motivator, and it only works for simple tasks. I've actually written an article about that you should probably read. When it comes to complex tasks that require intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation actually destroys productivity. But it's one of those points that a CEO needs to know before he or she launches his pet program to improve productivity, because chances are he or she will think about using carrots and sticks. And for you to be useful, there's 3 things I recommend. So I said there's 3 reasons why HR professionals aren't asked. So one is that HR professionals don't talk the language of the CEO. So don't talk productivity language. They don't talk hard metrics. They don't report, for example, absenteeism on a regular basis. It's not part of the strategic plan necessarily. They don't go to the CEO and say, I have a plan that's going to reduce absenteeism by 20% in the next 3 months. So they don't put themselves, hold themselves accountable for measurable results. They're okay with soft targets, but when it comes to hard targets like attendance and sick days, there's a reluctance to do that. And who wants to be held to account for a particular objective that's really, really hard to accomplish? Because after all, you could fail. Well, that lack of courage, the CEO picks up on it. He or she may not get that from his operations VP or from his VP of finance. But if you're the HR person, you need to be at that level of rigor and willing to hold yourself to that level of accountability. It means talking the CEO's language is the language of numbers. And that means the language of numbers with respect to productivity and employee productivity. So to do that, and here's reason number 2, you need to be the most expert person in the company in productivity. So every company that I work with, when I ask who's in charge of employee productivity, I get him, her, sometimes sometimes and everything eventually rolls up to the CEO, yes. But who below the CEO is responsible? Rarely is it HR. Rarely, sometimes less rarely, it's IT. IT. Sometimes it's the COO. But whoever it is, it's usually not a designation. It's usually a default. It's more like the person who decides employee productivity is my thing. They're the one who eventually pick up on it, and they're the ones who decide that it's important, and they run with it, as opposed to it being a title or a job. The truth is, you need expertise. Employee productivity has to do with psychology. There's engineering. It has a heavy technology component. It has a human component, change management. It brings together so many fields that it's easy for it to fall through the cracks, which is exactly what happens. So to be an expert, you actually need to do some studying. And that means convincing the CEO that you have the expertise to bring off a productivity improvement that would show up and drive value to the bottom line. That's not going to come overnight. It's not going to come from reading a top 10 tip or going to a conference and sitting in a 1-hour seminar. I am talking about long-term study, months, years, whatever it takes to be able to divine the kind of solutions that the company needs. And I can tell you because it's the area I work in, that very few HR professionals are willing to submit themselves to sort of the education that's needed to become the expert in their company or the go-to person in that company. Because it's hard to ask the CEO to hold you to account where he doesn't know or doesn't see you as the expert in employee productivity. So say that's the first. But the third reason is that often HR professionals don't stick with productivity improvements for long enough. And part of that has to do with the expertise issue. The hope is that there will be instant results, but the reality is that instant results just about never happen. The areas you need to produce results, I can tell you 3 of the typical ones are, and most CEOs agree that these 3 areas are problems in their company and they love a solution: email, meetings, and third one they don't know about, but you would need to know about as the expert, is the layout of your office, the physical layout. Desks, chairs, spaces, visual distractions, audible distractions, all the ways that people are disrupted from doing good work nowadays. So to become an expert in email productivity, meeting productivity, and spatial productivity, call that the 3 that I hear in every single company. And they're the 3 that you would have to focus on, knowing that there won't be overnight results. There won't be instant magical solutions. That you need to come up with metrics in these 3 areas if you're going to work on them. You need to put together a program, convince your executives that it's feasible. You can't work on it alone because all 3 of them involve other stakeholders. 2 of them at least, or at least the email definitely involves IT and the devices and tools and software that's used. So to put them all together, you need to move to a whole nother level of sort of commitment that the employees who work for your company will be productive. Now, if you do so, though, I can promise that you'll be such an asset to your company and to your CEO in the numbers that he or she can understand. That he or she knows that if I keep this HR person around, every year I keep this person around, the productivity of my employees improves by 5%. So imagine if they could produce that equation in their mind and actually be able to measure and report on it, because you're the one who told them how to measure it, and you're the one who told them here's the before, you did some stuff, and here's the after. You'd be absolutely essential to the improvement and the future of your company. So we're at the end of the allotted, I think I'm probably over my time. It's 10 minutes so far. But I want to give you access to some articles that I've written. I pulled out one that I really thought was interesting. Why managerial restraint is so important to employee productivity. So it's an article I wrote some time ago. It has to do with the role HR can play in making sure that managers don't overstep their bounds as they engage employees. Because there's a lot of tendency nowadays for managers to assume that with a smartphone, I can reach my employees 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for example. And then there are others related to the 3 areas that I mentioned before, email, meetings, and space, that the only way to hold back their tendency to ultimately destroy company productivity is some serious coaching from HR that puts you in the driver's seat. So if you want to access the download, it has all of my columns in it, but it has this column in particular. You can go to http://free.fwconsulting.com. And I'm going to enter it in the, I think the notes are over here. Right, the notes are over here somewhere. Great. I'm seeing all kinds of people have joined in to listen in. It's been great talking with you. Grab a copy of that download and look for that article. It's called Why Managerial Restraint is So Important to Employee Productivity. And I'll include the name of the article in the list, and it has many other articles that relate to HR professionals and issues of productivity. So I'm going to sign out. Take care. Have a happy Friday. In Trinidad, I know you're off, and we're off here in Jamaica on Monday. So happy vacation, everyone. All the best. Bye-bye.